Good afternoon, I'm Ayshah Tull. Prince Harry has revealed that he has only ever cried once over the death of his mother. In a new clip released from his interview with ITV, he explains how he felt guilt after meeting the crowds who had gathered after Diana's burial. The full interview, filmed in California, will be broadcast this evening. Callum Watkinson reports.
Prince Harry was 12 years old in 1997 when public grief erupted around what was, for him, a highly personal tragedy.
Everyone knows where they were and what they were doing the night my mother died.
In the latest trailer for his ITV interview, to be screened in full this evening, the Prince speaks of grief for a lost parent, complicated by royal duty.
I cried once at the burial, and I go into detail about how strange it was and how actually there was some guilt that I felt, and I think William felt as well, by walking around the outside of Kensington Palace. 50,000 bouquets of flowers to our mother, and there we were, shaking people's hands, smiling. I've seen the videos, right? I look back over it all, and the wet hands that we were shaking, we couldn't understand why their hands were wet, but it was all the tears that they were wiping away.
Many details have already emerged of precisely what is in this book. But Harry's addressing of this period in his life is, for one historian, a commentary on what royalty does to the people at its heart.
What does that cost members of the royal family? What does that really mean? And here we have it in most stark terms. A young boy, at a time of his mother's death, actually muting his own emotions.
Everyone thought and felt like they knew our mum. And the two closest people to her, the two most loved people by her, were unable to show any emotion in that moment.
Via an early release of the book in Spain, we have heard of a physical altercation with his brother and that William was drunk shortly before his wedding. But in these latest clips, the younger prince speaks only of the childhood grief he was given no choice but to share with the nation. Callum Watkinson, ITV News.
And Harry, the interview is on ITV1, STV and ITVX from 9 tonight. Rishi Sunak has indicated that he might be willing to reopen talks with nursing unions for a new pay deal. Last month, nurses walked out in the first ever national strike. The Prime Minister said he was open to a deal that's reasonable and affordable. The Royal College of Nursing said it showed a chink of optimism. Well, our political reporter Amy Lewis is here. Amy, what could this mean for nurses?
Well, it all comes down to tomorrow when the Health Secretary meets the health unions. And I've been told today it's actually the first time during this winter's dispute they've actually met to discuss pay. Originally, the Royal College of Nursing said for its members that it would like to see a 19% pay increase. They have subsequently said that they would be willing to meet the government halfway. Now, today there's a real noticeable shift in the language that the Prime Minister was using when he was interviewed. He seemed to signal that there was some room for manoeuvre.
The government has always been clear that it's happy to talk about pay that is responsible, that's affordable for the country. That's always been clear. But we have to look now. We're about to start a new pay settlement round for this year. Right? We're about to start that independent process. And before that process starts, the government is keen to sit down with the unions and talk about pay.
Well, last month, you'll remember that nurses actually went on strike for the first time in the Royal College of Nursing's 106-year history. Well, listening to the Prime Minister there, the Royal College of Nursing's Pat Cullen said that there was some optimism that they could resolve the dispute, but it all comes down to tomorrow and what year's pay will be discussed, because she said if they only look at next year's pay and not the current year, then strikes will go ahead later this month.
The Prime Minister clearly said this morning, let's get to the table. That's what we've been asking for. There's a chink of optimism now that negotiations will start. But those negotiations must be about 2022-23. But I'm taken from the Prime Minister that that's where he wants to start. So that's good news.
Well, tomorrow's meeting is due to take place between the Health Secretary and the unions in the morning. It's due to last for about 45 minutes. It will be fascinating to see what is actually discussed, because at the moment it is not clear. But as I say, if it is just next year's pay from April onwards and it is not the current year that we are in, then there will be strikes by nurses later this month.
Thank you very much, Amy, for keeping us up to date on that. Now, China has lifted quarantine requirements for foreign travellers after nearly 3 years of restrictions. The border between mainland China and Hong Kong has also been reopened. That's despite a surge in cases of coronavirus. It comes as the country has been dismantling its zero COVID policy, which had seen strict lockdowns enforced. A man has been charged with murder after human remains were found in a pond in Essex. Philip Lewis's remains were discovered in Harlow on New Year's Eve. 52-year-old Lee Clark will appear in court on Monday. And mortgage holders could be among the biggest losers this year from the cost of living crisis. That's what new research from the Resolution Foundation suggests. The think tanks say high interest rates could mean 3 million households are paying $3,000 a year more on their mortgage. To football, and Liverpool and Wolves played out a thrilling draw in their FA Cup third-round game at Anfield last night. Wolves went 1-0 up thanks to this awful error from Liverpool goalkeeper Alisson. That was before the hosts pulled this sensational volley from Uruguayan Darwin Núñez. Goals from Mo Salah and Hwang Hee-chan meant the game finished 2-2. The FA Cup third round continues with another 8 fixtures today. And finally, NFL star Damar Hamlin has thanked fans for their prayers in his first social media post since he had a cardiac arrest during a game. The 24-year-old collapsed on Monday after a collision with another player. That's all for now. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.